The All Progressive Congress has emerged victorious in the Saturday 19th concluded local government elections in Kaduna State. A recall of the Supreme Court judgment that gave powers for the state to conduct the local government in order to assess allocations from the federal government. All of that has continued to be the fast move by the state to conduct local government elections. But however, they also look at the Labour Party in the state has rejected the result that held in the elections, vowing to seek justice through the courts. In a strongly worded statement by the chairman of the Labour Party Caretaker Committee held by Yusuf Solomon, the party alleged that the October 19, 2024 election took place as announced, calling it a calculated act of electoral fraud. According to the chairman of the Labour Party, instead of a legitimate electoral process, the chairman of the State Independent Electoral Commission, Ajara Mohammed, appeared to be under duress as she declared all 23 chairmanship seats and the 255 councillorship position won by the APC, while voters were still waiting for essential materials to arrive. The Labour Party has accused the Commission of deliberately withholding crucial election material such as ballot boxes and result sheet in many polling units that rendered the electoral process non-existent. They have also claimed that the Commission had imposed illegal fees and on candidates, requiring the chairmanship candidate to pay $2 million and the councillorship candidate for $500,000. Joining us tonight to examine the recent local government elections in Nigeria as an assessment of way to go and the forwardness of Nigeria's local government elections is a program officer elections of Viaga Africa, Gabriel Gutap. Thanks so much, Gabriel, for joining us. There are a whole lot of concern about the election, and there are those that feels what we are having at the local government level is a mere selection process. Should we be bothered about the just concluded elections? Because sometimes we've seen either the ruling party in the state, PDP or APC, in the case of ABGA and all of that, sweeping whole. Now, those that are bothered about this process and how far this means for our elections, if we are progressing in a way of conducting local government elections in the country.
Okay, to start, we need to set maybe some background to this election straight, right? Remember the Supreme Court judgment, which was passed on the 11th of July, and that compelled most people, rather the local state governors, to rush to go and conduct their election, and most of them start announcing date when the election will be conducted. And based on the Supreme Court judgment, it gave them 3 months for all states. That's 90 days for all states to conduct election. That means if you calculate it from there, then you know that by October 11th, all states are supposed to conduct their election so that they will have elected leaders across the local government. So now, if you're looking at it now, we have like 16 states as of then, which have not conducted election. That's as of July 31st. And out of that 16 states, we have 399 local governments which are ungoverned by democratically elected leaders. But as of October 18th, we have only 8 states who are yet to conduct that election, and out of which we have 211 local governments right now that don't have a democratically elected leader. The election came with a lot of rush. And if you look at the election carefully, you see that before even the conduct election, they have to comply with the Electoral Act, which say that they must adopt some certain sections of the Electoral Act, right? And which most of them run to their state legislative arms to make sure that those electoral laws were being amended and so on. That given a little time frame for the conduct of election within that 3 months, and that election was conducted within that snapshot, and everybody then rushed to their respective state, get some people that don't even have a state electoral independent commission, where like Anambra, that have to constitute their own immediately. So you can see how the spontaneous response to be able to amend the electoral state electoral laws in order to comply with the set deadline. And most states have conducted their election. But one trend that keep going on throughout those states, you will see that the dominance of the ruling party, which keep winning the electoral, winning all the seats, right, or most of the seats in some situations, right? You can see places like Ibom, even the just concluded Kaduna, and so on. Most of them, the ruling party clinched the seats. So looking at that, that is another thing that we need to look at, right? It's an issue that we need to look at, right? Where all political parties, we need to gear up. We know what the Electoral Act talks about, what the laws of the state law talks about conduct of election, and how can we be able to engage the process peacefully, irrespective of what has happened in some certain states, right? But looking at the way forward, I believe that political engagement at grassroots is a fundamental bedrock for any democratic system. Winner takes it all does not show much, whether it doesn't show growth in the electoral process, right? But winner takes it all is something that we should kind of, when we look at it, we will see that some political parties, they are not adequately prepared. Come to talk about preparation, come to talk about funding, come to talk about how to mobilize resources in order to start campaigning within that short period. Remember, time is of essence. And that's why you see that most political parties, some of them withdrew from the system because they could not be able to meet up with the time frame and so on. So now when you come to look at it again, you see that the level of preparation by the electoral bodies, which all of them try to rush in to see that they can be able to put something on ground and to be able to conduct the election, also affect the conduct of the election itself. The logistical provision, right, is also another problem that caused across most of those elections where you see some polling unit, they experience delay in conduct or opening of the polling unit, and also kind of cause some polling unit which are hard to access. Some of them, they are not even able to conduct any election at those polling units. So these are the things that we should look. Preparation for an election is not something that we should rush into. It's something that should be meticulously looked into and should be able to plan it adequately, so that with adequate planning, it will ensure a credible election. Because when you conduct a credible election with a good enough resources and planning, it will also guarantee and give also, I'm looking at this aspect in the terms of sensitization of citizens. When you mobilize citizens enough and give them that time, give them that space, give them that particular sensitization of voter education that they need to know that yes, election is coming and we should be prepared. We should know how this election will be conducted. Remember, it's different from the way INEC conduct their election. INEC use beavers. In most states, didn't even use beavers. So people don't even know, do the state, or people don't even know whether the state's electoral commission have their own separate polling unit, whether designated polling unit. So there are a lot of this confusion on how to go and where to go to even cast their vote, right? Adequate sensitization to be put in place, and also states that did not use the beavers should be able to communicate to the citizens so that they'll be enlightened enough to know that this particular process will be done manually.
Yeah, there are a whole lot of concern about if we should allow INEC to conduct elections, local government elections and all of that, underscoring the fact that what we are having from the local government is just far below the expectations of local government election. A concern on why we should have a situation where it looks like governors get to unpick some governors. Some governors get to unpick some of the candidates for the election. And they are also raising concern about the internal democracy and the future of electoral integrity in our country. Talk to us about all of this, because in the other end, what we see from political parties is that there is no sense of internal democracy that have been reflected. And we've seen some of these happens within the state local government election. That those are probably bothered about the future of electoral integrity in our country.
Okay, I'd like to respond to your first question. You said that why not allow INEC to conduct the elections at the local government level, right? Right now, INEC have been complaining about they have been overburdened. That's why you see there's another this bill in the Senate trying to say that, okay, we should be able to create electoral offense commission and other things to less burden INEC. Adding that responsibility of local government elections to INEC, I believe that it will also add more to the weight, right? But backtrack it a little bit, whether backtrack refer to 2023, and I say 2023, when we talk about the early days of 2003, when elections, people are still at the queue, but results were being announced. A lot of investment went into INEC in order to bring INEC to the current state that INEC is right now, right? So in order to ensure decentralization of the process and the federalism practice that we have here in Nigeria, where you give the states their own power to conduct election, that means we need to invest more in the state electoral commissions. in the conduct of local government election across all states in Nigeria, that same energy should be channeled down to the grassroots, because that is where democracy needs to be seen at work. And once we can be able to fix that problem, national will not be a problem for us.
All right, those are really elements that probably are factors for this election. That those are fuels the economic situation in the country. Sometimes do not allow people to have their free will to vote. We've also seen cases of vote buying at the different polling units during elections. Prior to this time, issues of ballot box snatching and all of that. So economically, we are being endangered by these factors. And it looks that it's a cankerworm that is also confronting our election. Do you feel that it's so harmful that no matter how deep the convention of the grassroots will be, if that is not well tackled, we always have the same thing recycled again and again?
Okay, like I said earlier, right, to ensure a good practice when it comes to our electoral system, have to start from the grassroots level. And by starting from the grassroots level, you made mention of vote buying, you made mention of ballot box snatching, right? All those are indices, are criminal acts which has been criminalized by the law. The law frowns at it. Anybody caught in that act should be adequately prosecuted, right? So by prosecuting those people, it serves as deterrent for anybody that will try to do it in the future. But when we don't have all those mechanisms to be able to put into place and arrest and prosecute people when due and make it public so that people will know the process is ongoing, right? The process of prosecution, so that those that would like to follow up the case to observe the court proceedings and also follow up that all those people that are called culprits, they are being jailed, right? That will not serve as deterrent. But when the process is being open for citizens to be able to follow up those mechanisms, whether to follow up that process, right, it will be able to help to provide more information. You can even look at it from the 2023 elections, people were arrested, right? But now, how many people will you be able to say that confidently that it is on the general knowledge of the public that these are the number of people that are being convicted based on that crime or based on those acts that they perpetrated during the elections, right? So the way forward is how we can be able to build strong institutions that will be able to withstand time, will be able to withstand individual and political influence, so that the state independent commissions can be able to carry out their own responsibility.
Do you feel that the state independent has the capacity for elections to conduct these elections?
I didn't get that.
Do you feel that the state independent electoral commissions do have the capacity to conduct these elections we are looking for?
Yes, they have the capacity.
Because those are fields that they are under the influence of the governor. And if they're under the influence of the governor, they are back at the call of the governor. If the governor says this, that's what they do. So that interference probably is giving people doubts that they have the capacity.
They have the capacity to do that. That means there are some legal work that need to be put in place, some legislative amendments that need to be put in place in order to give them adequate independence, right? When you say independent in true sense of it, whereby the governor will have no or little any influence, don't have no influence in the selection process of who will become the chairman, and also their when it comes to their financial, right, their financial resources that will be able to for them to conduct the election. It should come direct from the House of Assembly, not the governor will then put it as one of the parastatal of the government cabinet, right? It's not the government cabinet. This one, they have a statutory duty to conduct election at the state. So that's responsibility. They should be able to have an allocation for them on the budget anytime they are creating budget for the state, so that they will have direct funding, not depending on when the governor feel like to conduct election. That's when we say that, okay, we have this change to throw around so that we can be able to conduct election. But they should be able to access direct funding from the states and from the states, budget.
All right, let's begin to look at the grassroots development, because part of the Supreme Court was to give light to local government in terms of getting grassroots, getting development to the grassroots. And those are probably having some of this concern that if elections are not the true willings of the people, these are not what the people really want, it's not reflective of the people's choice, it therefore means that, having that desired development at the grassroots might also be what we may be dreaming. In a way, how do we begin to manage this? One, do you acknowledge that we need this for in terms of getting grassroots development? And in terms of awareness, do you think much have been done for the people to understand that what they have at hand is a welcome development? On the other hand, in terms of getting development very close to them.
Yeah, so like I would like to take this from this angle. If you look at in the past where local government used to be more active, right? Where you will see the issue of sanitation every end of the month. So last Saturday of the end of the month, you will see sanitation. Everybody will go back to his room from morning till 10 so that everywhere will be clean and this thing. That's the responsibility of local government, right? That's but now what happened? You will see street littered around, nobody to even caution people, market are being kept anyhow, and those things like that. So now people need to be sensitized, need to be mobilized, because elections have been conducted now, like I said, in virtually most of the states across, right? We have an elected members and all the states, most of the states now. So now what should happen is the process of accountability. That's the next phase of engagement now. We should not just relax, say that we elect you and then be expecting them to do, but we need to follow up, hold them accountable, so that we will be able to know, we'll be able to tell them that we know our rights, we know we are expected from you. So you have to fulfill those other promises and mandatory promises, what your responsibility is stated, right, in the constitution. You should be able to carry it out for us, not to just relax. So citizens need to have a more sensitization, need to go down to the grassroots, so that they will understand this, because some people don't even know what's the responsibility of the chairman and also the councillors, right? Like one of the prior to the local government elections, like Akwa Ibom and Kaduna, what Yaga were doing is to tell people what are the responsibilities, what are the duties, the core duties of local government and chairman and also councillors, right? What is expected from them. We even put out some videos to say that, do you know that your local government councillor is supposed to be the one in charge of primary health care in your various local government, supposed to be the one in charge of primary schools to ensure that primary schools is running, supposed to be the one in charge of naming streets, sanitation, and also agriculture at the street level, at the state, this local government level. So when you be able to have equipped citizens with this information, mobilize citizens to go and ask for accountability at various local government, then you begin to see, when you hold the leaders accountable, democracy will start penetrating, the dividend of democracy will start penetrating from the grassroots and coming up, right? Because the first point of call is your councillor. Know your councillor first. Then the second point of call is the chairman. After the chairman, you then start holding your governors, your state, your House of Rep members, your senators, before you move to the national level. So process of accountability need to start from the grassroots, holding your leaders close to you, because those are your representatives. They are very, very close to you. Hold them accountable, and then the dividend of democracy and development in our society will start emanating.
All right. I mean, there's no how we can have these interactions about elections and also a concern about judiciary. That those that also feel that judiciary at all times must uphold justice for those rights that were violated. And we also look at the fact that if some of these, those that default against the Electoral Act and the laws we have, what has always been the punishment? Sometimes it looks that politicians, political actors, elections in and elections out, after elections, we get not to really have those that are really penalized for a crime committed. This also undermines the fact that it looks that laws can be broken at any time. And when people run to courts in terms of looking at claiming mandate and all of that, in respect to the outcomes of election, that those are also feel that justice must also be upheld. Do you feel that there's how we can do our elections without the judiciary? Because they're also concerned about if we must get elections right, then the court shouldn't also be the determinant of who rules, because we've also seen where people who never won at the polling units, get a mandate from the court. So, what is your take?
So the thing is that for now, based on our practice here in Nigeria, is that when you have any post-election dispute or pre-election or post-election dispute, you take it to court, right? You are not expected to carry laws into your hands, right? That's a way to go and table your disputes, and whatever grievances you have, you table it there, you file it there, and then you follow up the procedure to the end. So as for now, that's the process, and we just have to follow the process according to the way it's stated.
All right, Mr. Gabriel, let's get to go on the break. And once we return from the break, I'll bring out the clip, the announcement by the chairman of Kaduna State Independent Electoral Commission confirming 23 local government chairman are seat won by the All Progressive Congress after this break. Please stay with us. How many thanks for stay with us. Let's get to bring you the clip from Kaduna State, where the chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission, our State Independent Electoral Commission, had confirmed the winners of the just yesterday concluded local government elections before we further on that conversation.
The electoral officers and internal officers have filed their reports, and at the end of the exercise, 23 won chairmanship position and 255 won councillorship position. The 23 local government returning officers and 255 ward returning officers have declared the results in their respective constituency and submitted their results in accordance with the law alongside the electoral officers. By the power vested on the Commission, I hereby wish to confirm the result earlier collected and returned by the returning officers. I'm confirming these results as follows. APC won the 23 local government chairmanship position and the 23 and 255 ward councillorship position across the state.
Many thanks for stay with us. That's the chairman of Kaduna State Independent Electoral Commission confirming the winners of yesterday's local government poll at the state. Mr. Gabriel is still with us. He's the program manager of elections in Yaga, Africa. Mr. Gabriel, quickly comment on how we can probably get to prevent further erosion of our democratic values, because every elections we're being posed with a challenge of the values of our elections. Are we getting better? Look at the fact that the factors that have always in that prevented some of these practices. Even when we have the Electoral Act, we have all of those laws, but it looks that we are still back and forth with our elections. What I understand, you've also laid emphasis on some of them, but what are those urgent steps that must be taken to prevent all of that?
Okay. Looking at elections, each elections come with its own unique challenge, right? You can look at since from the 2011 and so on, different factors, different phases of challenges has presented itself over time, right? And that's not even we're not even leaving out the local government also elections. They also came varies across states. They also came with different challenges. But one thing that we can see as trend quite cut across all the local government elections that have been conducted. We said that one, we look at also logistical challenges. We also look at also allegation of fraud. We also look at voter apathy, right? In some places, we also look at violence and also intimidation at some places. These are all the most of the trends that cut across all the local government elections that have been conducted in Nigeria so far. But now, what is the way forward when we are trying to look at how to be able to make the process credible, right? We say that states have to conduct like a kind of have to conduct a deep reform into their electoral laws, right? Electoral laws have to meet a certain standard, and not just to have the laws. Implementation of the laws, again, is another thing on its own, right? Nigeria, we are fond of having laws, but when it comes to implementation, we are a little bit poor on it. But this is the aspect that we need a strong institution that will hold everybody accountable. Communication, aspect of communication is very, very key when it comes to election process, because when citizens don't have information, definitely they will run with everything they hear. So communication needs to be put in place. Even when you have the law being amended, you need to communicate to the people, make it public, publish it on your, whether post it on your, whether put it on your website, upload it on your website, so that people can have access to it, read, digest, people can analyze, so that if there's any feedback, they can also come back and give the feedback, right? And adequate preparation also. It all boils down to the issue of resources, issue of financing the state independent electoral system, right? As well as state independent electoral commission finances, they need to have a direct funding where it comes directly from the allocation which is being put on the budget, so that they also will be carried along, right? Every year they should be able to have a budget, or that they should be able to have a refund that will come direct to them, not only when it's close to election. That's when they will have the fund, because some of the materials that they need to prepare for these elections, right, they need to get them way ahead of time. So that's why you say in this 2024 local government election, which came in the rush that most states rushed into conducting it, I have to give kudos to all states that conducted their elections, right? Because now we can be able to say that we have democratic leaders representing most of the local governments in Nigeria, even though we have some questionable, there are some questions to ask around the conduct of the elections. But at least for now, we can say that we have a democratically elected leaders across some of the local government here in Nigeria. So always the way forward is reform, and also be able to implement those laws that those laws that are already in the various electoral laws across the state. Implementation is very, very key. We'll keep hammering on that implementation, and also prosecution of offenders, so that it will create level of deterrence to the system, right? Because if anybody knows that once you perpetrate this act, which is criminal, right, you will be arrested and prosecuted, it will create some level of deterrence, because the boldness that you will see some people to go and they will.
Mr. Gabriel, are you still with us? All right, we'll try as much as possible to get. Are you still with us, please? We can't get a feedback from here. All right, we're trying to take a look at the actions that have been taken by political parties. Some of these political systems are also aligning the fact that if we do not speak, if we don't also begin to engage political parties and stakeholders and all those that are involved, it also looks that we are in for a big risk ahead of future elections in the country. So, as always, those stakeholders involved and political parties must always be engaged in a bid to getting the results of every elections in the country. Situations that just occurred in the local government election, it looks that the fast approach to the election has also led some political parties and some state electoral commissions conduct elections in a way that is not reflective of the standards of the election. But how do we get to move forward? How do we also understand that we must also take actions against some of this moral decay within our political system? We'll go on a break right away, and once we return from that break, we'll try as much as possible to get Mr. Gabriel back on the program so as to analyze some of this program, or some of these issues raised, and before we wrap it up on the show. Just stay with us.
an insightful idea that takes the center stage and the conversation that gets beyond the headlines. To explore the lasting impact of political decisions, Big Talk got you covered. From policy debates to geopolitical insights, from thought-provoking discussions to actionable insight.
What is the real responsibility of government?
Big Talk delves deep into the heart of the matter. Join us weekdays on global televisions from 6:30 p.m. for a reverting journey into the heart of politics, where we dissect issues shaping our society.
Actions and concern about the local government elections that have just been concluded. Some of the states that have conducted are also concerned about grassroots development and how we must get it right at the local level. The Supreme Court judgment granting financial autonomy to local government is also a matter of urgent concern among everyone, stakeholders, in a bid to getting some of these development and how to see how elections can be right. And also seeing a fact that those that we are letting out at the locations too, the hands on the person, they have the capacity and what it takes to get development to the grassroots. Because it looks that local government is so much of importance if the way we must interpret the financial autonomy's judgment by the Supreme Court. It looks that the local government must know what they're doing. If they don't get it right, it therefore means that we are being taken backward. We don't know what that for local government in respect to our national development. Gabriel from Young Africa, the program manager, is still with us. As we begin to wrap up, look at the issues of moral decay within a political system. Now, those that said political parties must be aware that they are one of the stakeholders of our democracy. That if anything goes wrong within the political parties, it also means that we will not get it right in a bit of elections because as far as the country is concerned, we do not have independent candidacy for now. Do you feel that it's also needful for political parties to also put themselves together in response to getting democracy work in Nigeria?
Yeah, it goes without saying, right? Political parties are one of the major stakeholders when it comes to the conduct of election. And Nigeria don't have independent candidates. So for anybody that want to contest must come through a political party. So that means if political parties don't get it right at their own respective parties, definitely democracy will suffer, right? And you have to come out there to ensure that internal democracy is being practiced within the party, because that's the only way you can be able to project it outside. If you don't have internal democracy inside, that means you don't have anything to show outside, right? So that is where the heavy load of the work is being bestowed on the political parties. Everybody, when it comes to election, everybody eyes is on the political party to see what they are doing and what they are planning to, right? So most of the mobilization, most of the advocacy.
All right, I'll be back with you, Gabriel. Let's get to go on a commercial break. And once we return from that commercial break, the conversation continues on the program. Just stay with us. Many thanks for still staying with us. This is Big Talk, live from the nation's capital. We, of course, are trying to look at the just concluded local government elections and how far this can go in getting some of the grassroots development. Gabriel from Young Africa is still with us. As we begin to wrap up, involvement of political parties. I understand you about speaking more on that. The concern on how we can get the political parties right in terms of their own primaries, from their internal democracy, in terms of looking at the level of how far the primaries are conducted, because sometimes, litigations are always there. It's also in a way of trying to also take us backward. What can you say about that, please?
Yeah, transparency.
Mr. Gabriel, are you still with us? All right, of course, that's the much we will take from him. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, Big Talk, and also adding voice to the concern about the local government elections that have just been concluded at Kaduna State, where the Labour Party has criticized the chairperson's conduct during the announcement of the result. They're describing that as a distress, which some persons are suggesting that there was no proper planning within the elections. We've seen also PDP, People's Democratic Party, knocking at the elections umpire on that conduct of elections. Mr. Gabriel, thanks so much for sparing some of your evening with us on the program tonight.
Thank you.
And everyone, that's where we wrap it up tonight on Big Talk. Let's get again to look at all the stories. The president is back, also informing that the president is back to the country. He's also getting to address some of the issues on his table. He has also confirmed that more work will be done in respect to getting things done. We're still keeping track to know what is the economic team of the president putting, what are the level of work that have been done in respect to managing the economic crisis in the country and getting the development and dividends of democracy back to the Nigerian people. Also a concern of how we are also looking at several events in the countries, in judiciary, eyes on the judiciary, eyes on the legislative, and looking at the roles of the National Assembly to getting Nigeria fixed, because all hands must be on deck in getting things done in the country. That's where we wrap it up tonight on Big Talk. See you again tomorrow as we take on other big issues. Bye-bye for now.